of Kiss.
Welcome to Our Weird World. I'm your host, John Henson, and future me is listening to this episode. Boy, I hope we figured out how to get this kid to go to sleep in his crib because he hates it. He hates his room. Absolutely. Can't stand to be in there by himself. And so it's boot camp time right now. It's immersion therapy is really the thing that we're going to, and it sucks, but whatever. I'm the kind of cold, heartless parent to do it. So that's that. What are we talking about today? We're looking at the story of Christian Gerhartsreiter. It's probably not really how he said it. You'll see. But just one of those characters from more recent history that kind of went under the radar, but just had a really big story. And somehow got away with a ton of weird stuff and kind of just kind of a con man sort of thing, and just pretty wild what he was able to get away with and get into. So I'm sure a lot of you have not heard this story, so strap on in and let's get into it.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
Christian Gerhartsreiter was born on February 21st, 1961 in Siegsdorf, Germany. In 1978, so when he was 17, he met Elmer and Jean Keln, an American couple traveling through Germany at that time, and then later claimed that they had invited him to stay with them back at their home in California as a way for him to enter the country. And it was at that moment, somehow, after concocting this story, that he realized that lying about everything was incredibly easy and just decided to make it his entire personality. Because, I don't know if he actually did meet Elmer and Jean. Maybe he did, or maybe he just said he did as a way to get into the United States. And then, immigration at that point just kind of believed him because he's white. And why would white people lie? It's the brown ones you got to watch out for. We all know that. Kidding. I felt a little too serious and authentic. I feel like I had to clarify. Just like, hey, whoa. Kidding. So anyway, he first went to Berlin, the Connecticut one, not the German one, and told the family of author Edward Savio that he was from a wealthy family in West Germany, which was only partially true. He was just from West Germany. Savio's family let him stay with them until he got enrolled at Berlin High School as a foreign exchange student. But within a few months, Gerhartsreiter had annoyed this dude's family to the point where they kicked him out. But rather than continue pretending to be a high school student, because he was 18 at this point, he's probably graduated. So rather than continue to pretend to be a high school student, Gerhartsreiter decided to head west to become an actor. By the time he had hitchhiked all the way to Milwaukee, he decided to then just tell people that his name was Christopher Kenneth Gerhardt. I mean, here's the thing. And I've seen this a couple of times, with serial killers and other people who have changed their name to hide their identity, where it's their new name is just kind of the same as their old one, but and almost not even enough to be completely different. And this is the same thing. Christian Gerhartsreiter. No. My name's Christopher Kenneth Gerhardt. And that's it. I don't know. It's so weird, but he gets to Milwaukee. He enrolls at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, but then quickly decided that it was more important to become a U.S. citizen than to just get a degree. He quickly found and married 22-year-old Amy Dunkey in 1981 to obtain his green card after lying to her by saying that he would be forced into military service to fight Russia in the Cold War if he were to get deported back to West Germany. And that all sounds believable, but again, he's lying. He's making all of this up. But the day after the wedding, which is crazy, the day after the wedding, he left Dunkey without notice and made his way to California. She filed for divorce the following year. And it's crazy how people can do that. Because I remember all of the things that had to go into just planning my wedding. It's a big commitment to do all that. And then I remember what things were like the day after our wedding. I was still extremely tired and just kind of like in a mental haze because the day before had been so busy and hectic. And then we're supposed to get up and then we're supposed to go home and pack to go to the honeymoon. And this dude, the whole time, he just had this plan. He just like abandons this woman the next day. Like just wakes up for the day after the wedding and he's gone. Like that's crazy. Either way, this dude, he goes out to California and meets Dee Dee Sohus and convinces her to let him stay in her guest house in San Marino. In 1985, now going by Christopher Chichester, he was actually questioned by police regarding the sudden disappearance of Dee Dee Sohus' son, Jonathan, and his wife, Linda, and told them that the couple had traveled to Europe and even produced a postcard that they had allegedly sent him from France. Police decided, that's probably good enough, and then they moved on. And guess what? That's big old red flag there, just so you know. I'm going to put a pin in that for later. That's a big red flag. In 1988, he was back in Connecticut and was pulled over while driving Jonathan Sohus' truck. Remember, he's just off in Europe traveling. Although police thought it was weird that Jonathan and Linda Sohus had been traveling in Europe for 3 years now, they didn't keep Gerhartsreiter in custody. The alias and everything checked out, and they let him go. So instead, he stayed in Connecticut and settled in the town of Greenwich, or maybe it's Greenwich, under the new name Christopher C. Crowe, who claimed to be a Hollywood producer that had worked on the earlier revival of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Now, there was a Christopher Crowe that was listed as a producer of that series, but it was a dude named Christopher Crowe. It was not Gerhartsreiter. He just stole that dude's identity. Regardless, he soon found a job at a brokerage firm to work on their computers, but he was quickly fired after they realized that the social security number that they had given him had actually belonged to serial killer David Berkowitz. We actually covered Berkowitz, also known as the son of Sam, back on episode 182, if you want to go check out that story. But first of all, how did he even get this dude's social security number? Like, that's crazy in and of itself. But then to also have the balls to do it and get the social security number of a very high profile serial killer. Crazy. Meanwhile, while all of this was going on back in California, police discovered some bones that they believed once belonged to one Jonathan Sohus. Unfortunately, since Sohus had been adopted by Dee Dee and actually wasn't her biological son, there was no way for police to do a proper DNA search to get conclusive evidence that the bones did belong to him. They did, however, feel pretty confident that he had been struck in the head twice by a blunt object and also stabbed 6 times and then also cut up into 3 different parts. And so that looks pretty bad. And it definitely looks like, hey, maybe they haven't been traveling in Europe for 3 years. I don't know where his wife is, but haven't been traveling in Europe for 3 years. He's definitely been dead this whole time. After getting fired from 2 other jobs, because this dude has no skills, he's just lying about all of his credentials, Gerhartsreiter learned that police were again looking for him to talk to him about his connection to Jonathan Sohus' disappearance. So he abandoned his Christopher Crowe persona and then changed his identity to an even more high-profile character, that of James Frederick Mills Clark Rockefeller. All of the names. Didn't just stick with 3. No, he wants to be even more aristocratic, noble, high profile. Not lay low, because he knows the police are looking for. Let's get even more bold. And let's just see What happens? So he's claiming he's a Rockefeller. And he even in 1995 meets and marries Sandra Boss, who was a senior executive at McKinsey & Company, which is this global management consulting firm. Although she initially fell in love with Gerhardsreiter and his fake charming stories of life as a Rockefeller, which he absolutely was not, he quickly became emotionally abusive. And that's a real bold move for a guy whose entire life is a lie. Despite Sandra being the only source of income for this new family, including the daughter that they had together in 2001, she allowed Gerhardsreiter to have complete control over their finances and her day-to-day life. And ladies, like, have some empowerment. All right. Like, Sandra Boss is a boss. Like, she's a senior executive at this global consulting firm. Easy 6-figure job, maybe higher, maybe high 6 figures. And she believes that she has met someone from the Rockefeller family who would be, in theory, much more wealthy than she. However, seems very strange that this Rockefeller doesn't have a job, also doesn't seem to be receiving any income from any kind of trust fund. But it's a Rockefeller. All the Rockefellers, they are clearly very smart and know what they're doing. And so she lets him control all of their finances and has a kid with him. Like, weird, but okay. And also allows him to control, like, pretty much everything about their day-to-day life. Again, have some self-worth, ladies. Like, if you ascend to the top of this global business and you're making 6 figures or more, I think you get to call the shots. Like, here's the thing, man. Like, I'm stay-at-home dad right now. Still working, a remote job or whatever. But, like, if it gets to the point where my wife is making 6 figures on her own, she can tell me to do whatever she wants. I will take a toothbrush and scrub the grout in the bathrooms. If that's what she wants me to do, that's fine. She's bringing home all the money. Whatever, man. That's fine. Like, she's earned that. But it's real silly. So anyway, that's beside the point. They eventually moved to Cornish, New Hampshire, where Gerhardsreiter went to work convincing everyone in town that he was an actual Rockefeller, which obviously boosted his reputation around the town. He also told people that he was a Yale graduate. He wasn't. Who owned a largely successful business in Canada. He didn't. All of this, plus his charisma and his charm, he used all of this to get into Boston's Algonquin Club, which is this very private and highly prestigious social club in Boston, and actually worked his way up to a director's position. This dude, like, if this dude actually, like, put all of his energy and skill into just being a regular person, he would have been just as successful. But it was somehow it was just so much easier for him to lie about things, and people would just believe him. Like, that's what's so scary. And I've said this before, just those people who are super charismatic and super personable who can get people to believe anything. This dude would have been the best cult leader because he could have just had people believe anything. And these people who are just so charismatic and could just get people on board to believe whatever. Like, I don't like that person because they never use it for good, Like, they're always terrible people, it seems like. I can't think of a good, charismatic person who has used their charisma for good. And maybe it's out there, and maybe I'm just not thinking of them, but there's all of the bad people come to mind immediately. So he gets into this super prestigious, super fancy, exclusive social club, works his way up to the director position. But then some things finally started to fall apart. In 2006, so 11 years after being married to this woman, Sandra finally got tired of Gerhardsreiter's, like, weird and controlling behavior. She hired a private investigator to actually look into his past and quickly learned what you've known the entire time. Which that's got to be a real eye opener for her. Which is like, all right, Sandra, I'm gonna need you to sit down when I tell you everything that I found. Your husband, James Frederick Mills Clark Rockefeller. Literally none of those names are his actual name. This is some German dude. He's not Rockefeller, babe. Like, I need you to lock in right now and understand that you have been swindled hard. And this dude has been controlling your finances and everything. And he's just a goober. He's a big old goofy goober. And you're by proxy also a goofy goober for falling for all of this. And so, like, I can't even imagine that. Because, like, I put myself in that position, right? Like, just all of a sudden, like, you know, for whatever reason, like, I get paranoid and I hire a private investigator about my wife. And then the private investigator comes to me and goes like, hey, man, here's what I found. All right. You know, your wife and the family that she's claimed to have, none of that's real. She's literally just like some Romani gypsy immigrant and came over here during the Kosovo War. And it's, you know, she just herded fainting goats for like the first 20 years of her life and then came to America. And she's just been swindling people. Really, all she really wanted was just to get a green card, to get married and get a green card. And you did that for her and had kids. And that's all she wanted. And I don't know why she couldn't just be upfront with honest. She seems like a very reasonable person. She's, you know, whatever. And she could have just been a regular person. I don't know why she had to make up all the stuff about being a daycare teacher and living in Prague for 2 years, teaching English as a second language to, you know, the Czech people. Like, none of that actually happened. She's really just been a fainting goat herder her entire life until she met you. You know that thing where she was just going to work every day? No. Like, I don't know. I know you saw the finances. I know you saw that she had money coming in. I don't know where she was getting it from. But that's the level of insanity. Like, I can't even keep the bid up because I can't even make up things that are more ridiculous but also realistic sounding at the same time. And that's what this poor woman is going through. So obviously, like, she doesn't even know Gerhartsreiter's real name at this point, but she files for divorce and then also had her daughter's name legally changed because her daughter was not actually a Rockefeller. When word of this divorce got out, actual members of the Rockefeller family heard about it and actually came forward in support of Sandra and denied knowing Gerhartsreiter at all because he's not a Rockefeller. He's a German dude. In the divorce settlement, Gerhartsreiter agreed to give Sandra full custody of their daughter in exchange for 3 supervised visits a year, $800,000, 2 cars, her engagement ring, which he probably bought with her money, and a dress that he had given her, also probably bought with her own money. Which is weird. It's weird that he asked for the dress. And maybe it was a really expensive dress that he's going to go sell for a couple $1,000s and just continue. But he also got this woman, which again, Sandra, have a backbone, babe. Like, for the opportunity to see your daughter 3 times a year, you're going to pay this dude who doesn't have a job. You're going to pay this dude $800,000, and maybe that's spousal support rules in New Hampshire. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But also, you got to fight for that because this is clearly an extenuating circumstance where this dude isn't who he said he was. Like, she's been conned this whole time. Maybe the courts would be a little bit more lenient on that, but I don't know. But she ends up paying him $800,000, giving him 2 cars. Why does he need 2 cars? Also giving her the engagement ring and a dress. It's crazy. Once the divorce was finalized, Sandra and their daughter moved to London. And I get it. I wouldn't want to be in this country either. During one of Gerhartsreiter's supervised visits on July 27th, 2008, an SUV pulled up alongside him as he walked with his daughter and a social worker along the Back Bay neighborhood in Boston. When the SUV stopped, Gerhartsreiter pushed the social worker down, grabbed his daughter, and jumped inside the vehicle. Although the social worker actually was able to grab onto the vehicle and was dragged down the street, she soon fell off, which allowed Gerhartsreiter to get away. So now we're like ramped up. We're crazy now, as if we weren't already. A week later, Gerhartsreiter was found in Baltimore, Maryland, where he had recently purchased an apartment for $450,000 under the name Charles Smith. The apartment was also conveniently close to a marina where he kept a catamaran. And how does this dude have a catamaran? He took that $800,000 in the divorce, and he did some stuff with it, clearly. Because he just has a catamaran, not just a boat, but a catamaran. I don't think that's as fancy as a yacht, but it sounds fancy. It's like a yacht light, like a light yacht, whatever. I don't know. It's crazy. So whatever. He's in Baltimore. He's near the marina, and police have found him. FBI have found him. FBI is involved because it's a kidnapping case across federal or across state lines. And so to lure him out of the apartment, the FBI placed a call to him telling him that his catamaran was sinking, and he's freaking out. So he runs out of his apartment. And at that point, agents grab him and charge him with assault and kidnapping. Assault being pushing the social worker down, I guess. On August 15th, 2008, the FBI and 3 other law enforcement offices finally figured out who Gerhartsreiter actually was. And they then charged him with furnishing a false name to law enforcement, though his defense attorneys argued that he hadn't done it for dishonest purpose. Your Honor, he did not lie about his name for dishonest purposes. He told them what his name was at the time because that's who he was being at the time. I don't know. After his bond was set at $50 million, Gerhartsreiter's attorneys indicated that they would then deploy an insanity defense. And I guess, because how else are you going to defend this dude other than to say, yeah, Your Honor, he's completely out of his mind. During the trial, Gerhartsreiter claimed that his daughter had communicated with him telepathically from London and begged him to come rescue her. She didn't. Although psychiatrists diagnosed him with delusional and narcissistic personality disorders, check. They noted that he was exaggerating most of his issues and was more than capable of knowing right from wrong. In the end, he was found guilty of kidnapping his daughter and assault and battery on the social worker during the getaway, but was only sentenced to 8 years in prison. And that seems light. Not going to lie. And I mean, I get it to a degree. They can't punish him for faking, being... Because it's not he didn't really steal anyone's identity. He just made it up. Other than, getting the Son of Sam's social security number, which he was executed or whatever, or he was in prison, so it didn't matter. But, they couldn't punish him for swindling a lot of very gullible people. They willingly did all that. They could only punish him for kidnapping his kid. 3 years later, after all of this, in 2011, Gerhartsreiter was finally charged with the murder of Jonathan Sohus. Remember that? That seems so far removed from this because so many other insane things have happened. But yes, Gerhartsreiter probably did kill this guy. He was convicted of the murder 2 years later, mostly on circumstantial evidence, because he sure wasn't going to admit to it. But he was given the maximum sentence of 27 years to life in prison. And then following that conviction, Gerhartsreiter fired his legal team and represented himself at the sentencing, which clearly didn't work. And so after the appeal, his sentence was reduced from 27 years to life in prison to 26 years to life in prison. He has exhausted all of his state appeals. Federal appeals probably not going to help him any. And so as of right now, he resides at the San Quentin State Prison in California. He will be eligible for parole in December of 2029. Who knows? Maybe he will charm the parole board into letting him go.
All done.
All right, there we go. The story of Christian Gerhartsreiter in the books. That's a fun one, right? Just insanity all the way around. And only one person died. And I think for this show, in a story of this magnitude. Now, granted, I don't know what happened to Linda. Like, I don't know. I need to go back and look real quick while the music's playing. Because I don't know what happened to Linda. We only focused on Jonathan Sohus, not his wife. So hang on. So whatever. Hang on. Let's recap and see what we learned today. I'm getting ahead of myself.
What did we learn?
Number one, Christian Gerhartsreiter, born in Germany, but like came to America. We think he probably met a couple, but I'm just basically made lying his entire personality because he could get away with it, and people believed everything he said for some stupid reason. Number two, had a bunch of different aliases, in addition to fake-Rockefeller, which was like the one he had the most success with. He also told people he was Christopher C. Crowe, Christopher Mountbatten, which I didn't even mention in the regular story, Charles Smith, Christopher Kenneth Gerhardt, and Christopher Chichester. And then number three, definitely probably murdered Jonathan Sohus, but probably also murdered Linda Sohus. The problem is that her body has never been found, and he's not saying. He's always denied it. But crazy that like he definitely murdered both of those people, and then that was like a footnote or a side note to his crazier story about like claiming to be a Rockefeller, marrying this crazy wealthy woman, having a kid with her, and then getting like a crazy amount of money in the divorce, and then kidnapping his kid, and all of that stuff. Just a wild story, start to finish.
What did we learn?
Next week on Our Weird World, we're getting spooky. We're just having a little dip into the Halloween stuff with some episodes about ghosts. Part 5 of some ghost stories. 3 different stories about ghosts from history, famous-ish ghosts. We're looking at the stories of Resurrection Mary, Carl Pruitt, and Virginia Campbell. These are going to be, you know how they go. You know how I am with ghost stories. So I don't know. We're going to have fun. And that's that. So come on back next week for the ghost stories. And thank you for continuing to listen. Keep telling all your friends and keep it weird.
This is a podcast